yesteryear. Now, today we're exploring about the life of Rabbi Avraham Al-Naddaf, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, one of the great rabbis of his time, one of the great Yemenite rabbis, about who we've spoken about on various occasions before. His Hilula is on the 12th of Adar, Yud Bet Adar Aleph. Naturally, he was born in English year 1866, passed away on the 21st of February in the year 1940. He'll be like the main rabbi of Yemen, of the Yemenite Jewish community in Eretz Israel. He'll become a Rosh Yeshiva, a Diyan, a judge, and Shochet D'Rabbanan, traveling various different places in of itself. But let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life, because he was very much one of the great rabbis of his time. He was born in Karayat Al-Kabil in Yemen in the year 1866, and he would begin studying the Hebrew alphabet at the age of 3 years old, followed by, naturally, the Torah he would study, and the Aramaic Targum of Onkelos. At the age of 7, it was reported over. This was in the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Yosef HaKohen of Sana'a, respectively. I think this is his parents would relocate there after being in the previous place in of itself. When he reached the age of 10 years of age, there was added to, let's say, his curriculum, Jewish curriculum, Judeo-Arabic translation of the 5 books of Moses, which was actually composed, let's just say, this version of Rav Saadia Gaon, the Mishnah with the commentary of Rav Ovadia, the Bartinora, and the Code of Jewish Law also, respectively. The following year after that, what's interesting, he was transferred by his father to the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Avraham Al-Kara, who was another great rabbi. I believe he himself passed away in the year 1890, and he would start to learn the, let's say, the rendering of the readings of the Talmud Bavli, respectively, which is very, very interesting enough, as this teacher is said to have been the most, let's say, punctilious and astute of his generation. At the age of 14 years old, he would continue his studies in the Gemara, respectively, and in various different learning the writings and the halachic laws of the poskim, and eventually would study more advanced rabbinical Judaism under the great teacher, Rabbi Haim Yosef Korach, another great rabbi who passed away in 1914, a great rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. Come with the year 1886, he was about 20 years of age. He would actually, Rabbi Avraham would marry his first wife, they would have a daughter together, was reported over, but unfortunately they would both become ill and very sadly passed away. It's reported over during the sea voyage from Yemen to Egypt, which happened in the year 1891. This is what's recorded over, and unfortunately they lost their lives, and obviously that was very, very devastating. He would eventually arrive in Jaffa, I believe, in the spring of that year, and from there he would travel with a group of people, let's just say, I think using camels and mules, onto Jerusalem over there, it was reported over, and he would settle in the old city of Jerusalem and would start working on behalf of a small Jewish community that emigrated there, I think, in the year 1862. He would support himself as a silversmith over there and teach children the strong Jewish education in of itself. And it was reported over he would shortly later marry his second, what would have been his second wife at that stage in time. Rabbi Avraham Al-Naddaf will make various different trips to Yemen in subsequent years as a rabbinic envoy in order to raise funds for the Jewish people of the Yemenite community, I believe, that were in Jerusalem at that point in time. He would become a chief sponsor for building Beit Midrash for his community in Jerusalem and the hostel, I believe. And was initiated. He would initiate the first printing of a Yemenite Siddur with the Etz Chaim commentary of the Maharitz. Also, we spoke about the Maharitz on previous occasions before, as well as Hebrew Bible, let's say, codices, which were proofread by him and by the chief rabbi of Yemen, Rav Yitzchak Halevi, the great rabbi we've spoken about, and did a video on him not so long ago. In 1892, I believe there was a resignation of Rabbi Yehia Sarom, so Rabbi Al-Naddaf would be elected by the community to replace him and to head the Yemenite Jewish community. He would set out, let's say, to different enactments at that point in time. For example, to forbid Jewish contact with foreign organizations suspected of acting as missionaries. There was a big issue at that point in time, I think globally in general. There's actually a writing of this period where he writes, "At first we forbade them, and made them outcasts in the community. Anyone who would go again to receive any money or any clothing as they did before from the instigators, and even more so, those who would go there, listen to their preaching on a Sunday in their house of convocation, while even those who would go to work a menial job in their field, such as the field of Schneller. It's a German-run, I think, Syrian orphanage, which was established in 1861 by the German emissary Johann Ludwig Schneller, and built far beyond the walls of the city on lands purchased from the villagers of Lifta, be it only for a few hours of the day, so that may receive their money or weekly wages for paying rent. We forbade unto them the clothing that they would give on occasion to the working men. We made it known to them and warned them to desist from receiving anything from them. And thanks to the blessed Hashem, those who had formerly gone there, or who had, let's say, been errant therein, were prevented from doing so. Only a few refused to change their manner and would still go there in secret, and occasionally they'd bring, let's say, whatever they needed for themselves and take it to their houses in a non-conspicuous manner. But they were held in disdain and for a reproach in the eyes of all the congregation, until at length they too desisted from going there. That's what's reported over here from the source, I believe, actually came from the Al-Naddaf Shlomo. I think it was in 1992. The Uziel Al-Naddaf, I believe, was Zechor Avraham. Interesting enough. So, okay. So initially, the Sephardic seminaries, let's just say, the Kollelem would have received the Yemenite Jews when they first arrived in Jerusalem, but there was cultural differences that actually occurred between the Yemenites and I think the Sephardic Jewish community in of itself. So they would eventually, the Yemenite community would establish their own seminary. They were also being taxed, reported of, by the Sephardic community, money that was to go to the public places in of itself, the coffers, but they were not being allocated, let's say, an equal share of subsidy that was given to the Sephardic Jewish community. So there was they felt some sort of discrimination. And apparently in the year 1907, the Ottoman government of Palestine recognized Yemenites as an independent community, just as Ashkenazim and Sephardim are independent in of itself. While he was in Eretz Israel, what's interesting is, there was a question that came to the fore about whether or not Yemenites living in the land of Israel, who were, let's say, ballad rights, should adopt the custom of the other Jewish communities who separate, let's say, the biblical pericopes of Chokat and Balak during the weekly Shabbat readings. I think Yemenite Jews reported have traditionally connected these two portions, I think, for most years, while separating Masai and Matot. So that was a debate that came about at that stage in time. I'd recommend everyone to look into that. Now, it's actually interesting. In 1903, Rabbi Avraham Al-Naddaf published the community's first Yemenite Siddur, which we spoke about before, called the Tfilat Kol Peh. And I think come what 1907, because of the efforts of Rabbi Avraham, the Ottoman government, as we stated before, would recognize the Yemenite community in Palestine as an independent community, which we mentioned about before. 1910, the Yemenite Jewish community in Jerusalem and in Silwan purchased on credit a parcel of ground on the Mount of Olives, Har HaZeitim, for burying their dead, through the good, let's say, agencies of Albert and Tebi, and assistant of the famous philanthropist Baron Edmund Rothschild. And that I would recommend everyone to look about. And Rob Al-Naddaf would very much be in correspondence at that point in time. I think when there was an outbreak of the First World War, he was reported overdrafted into Ottoman army, but managed to evade actual military service through the efforts of 3 Jewish elders who appealed to the Ottoman commander. It was reported over. And later in life, I think the rabbi, with his second wife and their children, would move to the Bukharian quarter in Jerusalem. I think they would head the school, Talmud Torah, called the Torat, or if I'm not mistaken, and come on 1925, he and his family would move to Tel Aviv, and he would make livelihood as a shochet, a ritual slaughter of livestock, and scrivener of legal documents. Rav Al-Naddaf made commentaries and annotations to Rabbi Yehiya Saleh's question, let's say, Shelot Shuvot, question and responser, in the Pulat Sadiq. It was a great work published by Shmuel Badihi. I believe it was come into 2 editions in of itself. And he would pass away on the 21st of February in 1940 in Tel Aviv's Kerem HaTemanim, and was buried, I believe, by his 3 surviving sons and the daughter at the Har HaZeitim burial plot, Mount of Olives burial plot in Jerusalem, respectively. In the year 1938, I think it was reported over, one of the founders of Hapoel HaMizrahi sent a questionnaire to Rabbi Avraham Al-Naddaf containing 18 complex questions about the melodies of the Yemenite Jews, which he answered in extensive detail. And I think you can find the answer somewhere else. Let's just explore a few of the books that he actually left us over here, including, there was a book in 1981, Sefer Anafi Hayim. Naturally, the Tfilat Kol Pesidur, published in 1903. There was a book called the Hoveret, which was published in 1928. And inventory of books of Yemenite Jewish province, and I think it was put in an alphabetical order, as well as first written history of Yemenite Jewish poets. Rabbi Shalom Shabazi, another great rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before, famous Kabbalist. There was a booklet, Mevaser Tov, published in 1911. Another Shelot Shuvot book, Zichronei Ish, which was published, I think, in 1981 after he passed away, by his son Rav Saadia. And in a book called the Sefer Anaf Hayim, there was commentary, Anaf Hayim, as we stated before. And there was the prayer book, the Etz Chaim one, was printed, I think, 1894, 1899, and much later on, in 1971, through the editing of Rav Shimon Salach. There was a siddur called the Tfilat Kolpel, which I mentioned about before. I think that was 1903. The memoirs of Rabbi Avraham Al-Naddaf, which would be the history of Yemenite Jewish. And I think from the end of the 19th century, beginning of earliest 20th century, then there was various other books also. Another book was Shoshana Ha-Melech, which was commentary of from Rav Avraham, a manuscript in Institute for Preservation of Yemenite Manuscripts, I believe it happens to be. And there's many more writings that was actually in of itself. So please look into it more. Friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the great rabbis. Yes, yeah, we've spoken about maybe at least 50 great rabbis that happen to come from Yemen, respectively. Please like the videos, share the videos to other people. If you feel anyone would be interested, obviously, to do that, to send it to them, respectively. And learn more about the great rabbis of yesteryear. Don't forget to light candles in the great rabbis' memory. So wishing blessings here from Israel. Take care and be well.